Hey everybody, welcome to a brand new chapter of Old Man Brad. Whether you are new to the show or returning for another chapter, thank you so much for giving this little horror podcast a listen. And if you love the show, drop me a review over on your favorite podcast app, or you can become a patron over at patreon.com/oldmanbrad. Of course, I'm back with another new film. I'll have some spoiler-free thoughts on the upcoming film Don't Turn Out the Lights, and I also have an interview with the writer and director of the film, Andy Fickman. But before we dig into that, if you are in the Cincinnati area, come out to Frightful Fridays on the third Friday of the month. I'm so thankful to be able to host a horror screening at the Esquire, and our screening for September, on September 20th, is The Final Girls from 2015. I've only ever watched this one, at home, so I am really excited to be able to see this on a big screen. But come out September 20th, 10 p.m., let's watch a movie together. All right, it's time to dive into Don't Turn Out the Lights.
I have planned a weekend filled with sex, drugs, the Blue Light Music Festival! Happy birthday to me!
Hola mundo, it's your girl Gabster here.
And we are in the middle of nowhere.
Jason! What the hell's going on, man?
Everybody hold on to something!
Whoa. Okay, no one's gonna die on my birthday, okay?
I'm calling the cops.
I lost the signal again.
Anyone got a signal?
I'm sure that you've heard this before, but we might be kind of lost.
Reuniting for an unforgettable weekend, a group of high school friends takes a break from their separate lives at college to travel by RV to a music festival. Their exciting weekend plans quickly unravel as they find themselves fighting to survive each other and the unknown. This was written and directed by Andy Fickman. We will dive into an interview with Andy here in a minute. It stars Bella DeLong, Amber Janae, Anna Luz Zambrana, John Busey, Crystal Lake Evans, Jarrett Austin Brown, and many others. I'm not going to dive too far into it before we get into my interview with Andy. I will say I did enjoy this movie. It had some fun twists and turns along the way. My discussion with Andy, we kind of talk about some of that stuff. But I'm going to tell you to go check out Don't Turn Out the Lights on September 6th. And right now, we're going to dive into my interview with Andy Fickman, and I will talk to you on the other side. My guest today has been involved in many projects in film and TV, including Race to Witch Mountain, Kevin Can Wait, Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse, and Anaconda. His new film, Don't Turn Out the Lights, which he wrote and directed, comes out September 6th. I want to welcome in Andy Fickman. How you doing today?
Oh, good. Thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate this.
So I want to ask you, because your filmography doesn't scream horror too much. What drew you to this project that you wrote it and directed it?
So horror is my favorite genre of all time. And when I first got out to Hollywood from Texas, the first thing I produced was I was a baby producer on Anaconda. My first movie that sort of was a hit at Sundance was Reefer Madness, the musical that was a bloody zombie gore fest. And then right after that, where it felt like my trajectory is straight down horror, I was offered She's the Man. And I do a lot of theater, and I was a big 12th Night fan. And then next thing I knew, I was in that world for forever and steering the ship when I could. But this was a really personal film. I had wanted to tell this story for as long as I can remember. And it had been a couple of key moments in my life. One was my dad was a paleontologist and a geologist, but he was also a deeply religious man. And when I was younger, I'd ask him, how do you balance religion with science? And he'd say, science, we have to keep searching. There's always an answer. We just might not know it. And one day he told me years later, as I got older, that in the middle of the night, he had a dream that the angel of death came. And that morning, the phone rang, and it was my grandfather saying that my grandmother had died unexpectedly in the night. And I always thought, for my dad as a scientist, for him to carry that story around with him meant something. Then when I was in high school in Texas, there's a cemetery, Blue Light Cemetery, and Blue Light is an old abandoned 100-year-old locked up chain link fence, barbed wire everywhere. Nobody goes in, nobody comes out. And when you were in high school, you were kind of the thing to do your senior year is to drive there, tell ghost stories, sneak in. So a bunch of us got in the car. We drove, no lights at all. It's just dark canopy of trees. We pulled in. We had a couple of bottles of Andre's Cold Duck, the champion of high school champagne. In order to get over the barbed wire, we had to throw clothing, jackets, and we got over. And this place is pitch black. And we're sitting on somebody's, plot, and we're telling ghost stories and drinking. And we hear a noise, and the noise feels like heavy footsteps, not a dog, not raccoons, nothing, but like something that felt human, chasing you, coming at you. No lights, no security, no cop lights, not a car for miles. And we screamed and booked it. Go over the fence, I'm the last one. And the person right before me took the jacket over by mistake. So I got over, and it's hard to see now, but I have a scar that runs straight down from the rusty barbed wire fence slicing me.
Oh, wow.
And to this day, when we talk about what happened, nobody has a same answer. Everybody has an opinion of what it was. Well, somebody trying to scare it. Oh, I think it was a UFO. Oh, everyone had a different opinion. So I always thought that was something I wanted to tell. And then when I got older, and I was in Hollywood, we were at the Queen Mary for a private tour, bunch of producers and myself talking about a project. And we're in the engine room. And while we're talking with this tour guide, an iron pulley this big drops from the ceiling, brushes my arm. Had I been over just a fraction, I'd be dead. And the tour guide's eyes got real big and was like, we should go. We get in the car and we drive the hour and a half back to LA. And all of these Hollywood people all have a different opinion of what happened. Like people were like, oh, I think they must have done that to scare you. I'm like, you don't drop an iron pulley near somebody. Like, what are the odds that I could have moved? Like, but it is very hard for our minds to immediately go to the unknown. We rationalize first what it could be. And that made me think, I really want to tell this story. I want to take 7 new actors. I want to go make it super indie. I want to get an RV and go make it in the woods and just have an experience like that. And so that's what we did, and just had a blast.
I was going to ask some influences on the movie, but it sounds like it feels like almost like Final Destination in your life.
It was, by the time I was writing it, I'm like, I just started talking. What I found was more people were willing to tell me their story or some story that had happened to a relative. And everybody had something. Everybody was like, well, my cousin said that they saw a UFO, but they also were smoking weed, so they don't know if they saw a UFO. So I just felt like that was a world that I just wanted to explore. And then when we got the group, we spent about a week in rehearsal just watching scary movies and talking about their experiences. And then I kind of let those characters change and mold to who they were. Did
you find any challenges? Like you said, you got a group of younger actors, took an RV out in the woods. And did you find yourself, challenges trying to leap through this?
Yeah, you get spoiled. So if I do a big movie and I've got just mountains and an army of trucks and where's catering? And could someone get me a latte? When I do television and you're running a season of, I got to go back to all of that. I do theater, and theater is always small and condensed. And if you want a latte, you better stop and get your own damn latte. But taking a crew where you condense everything. And I wanted it to be practical. I wanted to go into the woods. I wanted that RV to become our fort. And so you also are taking 7 actors who this is sort of new to them. And you're taking a reduced crew. You're bearing microphones where you can. Our DP was our camera up, and he's like squeezed into the windshield wherever just to get an angle. So every day was a challenge, but I wanted the practical approach. And we didn't tell the cast most of the time when we were going to scare them. So when they were sitting there, if we banged from above or below or underneath or made weird noises, their reactions were legit reactions because we were in the woods. And they were like, I don't know what's out there. And I refused. They asked me a lot of questions of like, okay, so are these the guys who were the racist assholes? Are they trying to kill us? And I'm like, I don't know. You tell me. I know what I think is going on. Then they would just get them all like talking about it. And that ended up being just an amazing experience.
Now, were some of those scares in the script, or did you just like, a scare's coming, they have no idea?
Sometimes it would say, they're telling a ghost, they're telling stories, and there might be a noise coming. And that they would say, well, should I wait till the noise? And I'm like, no, just tell your story. And then we would hit them with something, or we didn't like, when we would have them step outside, we wouldn't tell them generally what was going to be outside. So them quietly opening up and like looking down and stepping out onto the road usually was a pretty spot on freaky moment for them. You'd hit that sundown about 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night, and sun up about 7 a.m. So it was the witching hour filming that movie.
You said you watched a bunch of horror movies before, and as you're doing it, you got a group of kids in an RV in the middle of the woods. Where did you find yourself, consciously trying to be like, I don't want to fall into too many cliches? Because that's exactly what we have set up right now.
Well, I think that was from the goal was, I just want to say everything that the audience might be thinking. Before the audience goes, oh, could it be an alien? I want one of our characters to bring it up. I want one of our characters to be like, someone said, turn around. I want one of our characters to mention, well, we had a fight with some asshole guys. Why couldn't they come do it? Or why isn't this a practical joke? So my goal was, if we talk it out, if we say every possible thing that there might or might not be, then we're putting it all on the table, and therein lies the truth. And that one person who might have like Gabby's character talks about the Bruja, the witch in this kind of village, she would start talking about that stuff. And then we just leave them alone and just keep talking, and they'd get comfortable. And just as they'd get comfortable, it would be that moment to be like, let's scare them at that moment.
I did like that, even as you said before, like something happens, people tell stories, and they're telling these stories along the way. Like, well, it could be this, it could be this. And even I found myself like, okay, wait, I thought maybe it could be this. Maybe I am wrong. And, you did a good job of, to the end, I don't really know if I know. Like,
well, you're in good company, because the cast I've always said I had a cash reward for anybody in the cast and crew who could tell me. 2 people get very close, but not right. But again, I take that from my experience of when I talk to my friends and we all experience what could be perceived as a paranormal event, both on the Queen Mary and at the Blue Light Cemetery. I don't have a unified answer for anything. I don't have anyone that can agree with what I think it is, and I don't agree with what they think, but I respect the fact that that's how you begin to think. We would be in the woods filming, and we would literally look over and think we saw somebody in the woods watching us. And our stunt coordinator would get all like, I'm going in there. And then he'd come back. He's like, I didn't see anybody. But you could tell he was a little weirded out because he left with such bravo. And then the deeper he got in the woods, he's like, I think, well, they're probably gone. I'm going to come back and I'll turn the light.
Andy, we're running out of time, and I want to thank you so much for chatting with me. And
thanks for having me.
On our way out, you said you're a big fan of horror. What are some of your either favorite horror movies or those movies that some people may not know about that are like...
I'm a classics in that.
Okay.
Original Exorcist, original Omen, original Rosemary's Baby. Picnic at Hanging Rock meant a lot to me because I love Peter Weir, and I love the fact that he just would not answer what happened to those girls. And the whole time I was like, really in the back of my mind was, his point was, you're the audience, you You come up with what you want it to be. I loved Donald Sutherland in Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I thought that version was just badass. I love the original Halloween. I love the original Alien because I just was so leaning over and like, well, I don't know what's up there, and that's creepy and all those. So those movies, I always got creeped out when I was a kid when they did Salem's Lot on TV, and he floats up into the window. Man, that just put the piss out of me in about 30 seconds where I'm looking out the window and being like, ugh. And I'd have some friend, one of my neighbors he knew I was scared, and sometimes he would knock on my window and then duck, and then I would look back and he would slowly rise, and I'd be like, that's crazy. But I, to this day, pretty much every Tuesday, I go to Amazon and Apple and see what's new, and I dive in because those movies, I find them the greatest adventure to go on. And it, as much as I'm a populist with my entertainment and all of that, and I love heavy drama, I love it. But a horror film, that's where I live.
And speaking of check out, September 6th, go check out Don't Turn Out the Lights.
Thank you.
And thank you so much again, Andy, for chatting with me.
Thanks for having me on, Brad. I really appreciate it.
Again, I want to thank Andy for taking time out of his day to chat with me. I had a blast talking to him. I think we could have talked a whole lot longer, but unfortunately we ran out of time. So Don't Turn Out the Lights. As the description says, it is a group of friends that get together and they go for an RV trip to a music festival. Basically, this is set up for many horror movies you've seen before, where they end up taking wrong turns and talking to locals that don't want them there. I know I asked Andy about, not falling into those tropes. And honestly, that's what I did love about this movie, is because you do fall into a lot of those tropes, but it's very self-aware of what those tropes are, to where you have characters mentioning it. You have different things happen along the way that really kind of turn what thought or what trope or horror movie trope that is happening. It kind of flips it on its head. My only complaint, the movie starts off a little slow. When these group of friends first get together, it was a little odd the way the party was set up, but once they got in the RV, once everything started going, I was all in. It just started slow, but then picked up and caught my interest. And throughout this film, I'm keeping this completely spoiler free. I'm not going to give anything away for any character, anything that happens. I'm going to tell you to go check it out instead. But I've said, as it goes along, each character kind of has their own little story. They point out many horror tropes that happen along the way through this, whether it's, the taking the wrong road when we shouldn't, the locals in the area, they're the ones that are messing with us, to could this be a creature, to this could be a ghost, could it be something else? We just don't know. And that keeps you guessing up until the end. And I think even past there, you still think about it. I have some ideas, maybe what I think in my mind it could be. I don't know if they're right, but it was an enjoyable journey along the way. I am going to definitely recommend Don't Turn Out the Lights. Go check it out in select theaters and VOD on September 6th. And let me know what you thought of it. You can just drop me a line, oldmanbradpodcast@gmail.com. You can email me. Let me know your thoughts on the film. Before I leave, I'm going to give you one movie you can watch at home, besides if you watch Don't Turn Out the Lights when it comes out on Friday. Another Spanish horror movie, because that's what I watch anymore. I watched a movie called Night of the Werewolf from 1981. It stars Paul Naschy. And let me just tell you, this is kind of a wild, wild movie. It felt like it was all over the place. Like my quick review I put over on Letterboxd, I said a werewolf, a witch, a vampire, and a scarecrow zombie walk into a Spanish villa. It's wild. It's crazy. It's on Tubi, Night of the Werewolf. You should go check it out. It is just a wild, fun time. Well, that will do it for another chapter of Old Man Brad. Just make sure you subscribe to the show and you will never miss any chapter or any of my Tales from Tubi series. I have a big October event with Tales from Tubi coming. Last year, I brought on a guest every Friday for a new Tales from Tubi episode. And this year, I'm going to be doing the same. Some of my podcast friends will be joining me for episodes all through October, so watch for that. Next week, we will be talking Creeping Death, the new film landing on Screambox. Just snuggle up in that blanket, turn off the lights, because it's okay to be scared. We'll talk to you later, everybody.